So let us record a really quick class right here. I do have a class I want to take a look at, and that's going to be CSS classes and that of the IDs. So I do have a folder created for that right here inside of my HTML and CSS folder right here. It's just a subfolder, and I think I already even have that opened in my Visual Studio Code. So I have two files inside of it, but they are completely empty at this particular point in time. So if we open that up in our browser, you wouldn't actually see anything in them for now, so they don't have anything in here. So I want to use this opportunity to show you guys how to make use of classes and IDs in that of the CSS and then HTML. So let me throw in my HTML boilerplate right here, and I'm going to just type a title right here, just call the CSS classes and IDs like that, and I'm going to just basically stop right here. So what we want to do is that we want to look for a way to link to our CSS first. So we can actually do this right here if we want to, or like I'm basically referring to maybe including something like an internal CSS or inline CSS if we want to, but let's go ahead and then link that to an external CSS, since it's just basically one of the things that you are basically going to be doing if you are creating a production application. So I do have Rails set to style sheet right here, and I do have href in here. So what I want to do is to link to this CSS. If you take a look at the file name, just call the style.css. So no capital letters, nothing, and they are all located in the same directory. So I can just do style right here, do.css. So this is just basically this particular file that we have right here. Right, so that is just that. So what I want to do right here is that, so the first thing I want us to take a look at right here, we'll just enter my h2 right here, and we're just basically going to take a look at the classes. All right, so let's do that right here. Let's close that. So this is going to be h2, and we're just basically referring to this right here. So this will be the first topic we want to talk about. What is classes in HTML and that of the CSS? A class in HTML is basically an attribute, and you can actually use that within your CSS as a selector to maybe grab onto multiple elements in your web page and then give them maybe a single styling. And if you want to do that, I'm going to just give an example right here. So if I do class, of course, this is just basically what? This is just basically an attribute right here. And then we can give it a name. Let's say, for instance, this is going to be heading, maybe heading 1 or whatever we just basically want to call that. Let's just refer to that as heading right here. All right. So we can go to our CSS if we want to reference to this right here, and we can use this particular name to reference to that. All right. So now if we go to our CSS right now, and then whatever we do referencing to this particular class right here, we can alter the design of this particular line of element right here. And if we want to experiment with that, if we go into our CSS, of course, if we want to reference to a class in CSS, you use a dot to reference to that. That's number one rule. So if I do a dot right here, and I do heading, that, and down here, what we basically want to do right here, let's say we want to change the color of that particular text in there. All right, so if I do this and then do something like red, and you see that the color of this particular text right here is actually going to be red. All right, so let's save the changes, and I want to take a look at that in our browser. I don't know right here. So if we refresh here, we see that that particular text kind of comes into the web page, and then it bears a red background, a red color right there. All right, so there can be some situation where you may have basically maybe more than one heading like this. So for here, if I do another h2 or h3, whichever one I want to make use of, and let's say this is going to be closed right here, h2, and we can just say this is, maybe we'll just do something like another heading, something of that nature, and let's say we still give it the same class name. So if I do class right here, and I will go ahead and set that to be equal to, and we're going to just basically use the same name right here, and I save the changes. You notice that if I save these changes and I refresh this web page, that text is also going to come in, but it's still going to come in with the same color. All right, so with that, we've established that this particular attribute called a class right here is going to serve as a selector in your CSS that you can use to a kind of a style multiple elements in your web page. All right, and for that I want to paste, let me paste something that I copied to the clipboard right here, and this is just basically just the definition of that of this particular classes that we do have in here. So I want to put this in paragraph right here, and I can also put this one in p paragraph. And for this, if you want to like reference to that in your what is it called, your CSS, you use a dot. That's just basically what this line is saying to us. So of course, they do not actually have any classes right here, so they wouldn't actually bear the same color as this one that we do have up here. So if I save the changes, I just wanted to add that so that it can like give us a definition of these things that we're really talking about right here. So a class is a reusable attribute you assign to HTML element, and then it allows multiple elements to be shared. To share the same styling or behavior. So if you want to define the CSS as style, I'm talking about a class, you will use something like a dot to reference to it, just like I've already shown you in this particular place right here. All right. So now the next thing we want to take a look at is called our ID. So if I do H2 here and I go ahead and let's say this is going to be our IDs or whatever I want to call that. So I will tell you the difference between the two as we move along anyway. But here, let's go ahead and then enter some text down here. So if we get back in here, I want to paste what I copied to the clipboard, and I want to just make sure that these things use a p paragraph to wrap around them. And down here, we should also wrap a p paragraph around this. And if you want to reference to, maybe you want to like basically reference to something like a class, an ID in your CSS, you use this particular sign called hash right here. All right. So, but I just want you to like grab onto the definition right here where it says an ID is a unique identifier for a single HTML element. So what this means is that once you create an ID within your web page, most of the time it has to be unique all through your design, your web page. All right. And for that reason, let's say for instance that this is going to be the main heading of this particular website right here. All right. So let's say if I go to the top right here, I want to basically put something like H1 in here. Let's say it's just basically going to be the main heading of this particular website. All right. So let's say that this is going to be code kinder, which is the major name of this particular website right here. And you can go ahead and just give this an ID. Let's say this is going to be maybe the logo of the website. All right. So most of the time, if you want to make use of IDs, you make use of them as you use them at places like where you kind of input your logo, because the logo of your website is actually going to be the same all across your website. All right. So this one is unique all the time. So there won't actually be any other class, any other ID that will kind of bear this particular name within your web page. All right. And of course, if you want to like maybe use different, you want to use the same name for some other things that you have in your website, it works. All right. But the rule says that this has to be just basically unique. All right. Even though if you don't maintain the rule, it doesn't actually stop anything from your website. All right, so that's just basically what that is. So if you want to style this right now, what we basically need to do is we need to take this to our CSS. So this is just like a selector. So if we go in here and let's say we want to reference to that, so we're going to use this particular hash sign, and then you drop the name of the ID. All right, let's say that the color of this is just basically going to be something like, let's say it's going to be something like let's do navy right here. All right, and you're going to notice that if we go to our browser right here and then we refresh, you see that code king that comes in, but it comes in with that particular unique color right there, which is navy right here. All right, so this is done in such a way that you don't have to have any other IDs that will bear the same name across your website. All right, so you use this only when you are quite sure that this particular element in here or this particular thing is actually unique, something like a position where you have to find your logo. That's where you use something of this particular nature to do. All right, so I hope that I've actually exposed to you guys the best way to like make use of a classes and ID. So this particular one right here is just based on classes. You can basically go ahead and this can be reusable. All right, so if you want everything that are on this particular page to be red colors, you can just, if I copy this and then put it right here and save the changes, you're going to see that this particular line is also going to bear the same color that this particular one kind of bears. All right, but this one has to be unique because it appears like the logo of my website. So whatever style I'm going to be giving to that is going to just only be affecting this particular section called the H1 right here. And most of the time you have to use it in positions of your logo or anything that's really unique that is not actually appearing too many times in your web page. So I hope that you guys kind of understand this. So if we refresh, you see how that is actually looking. So it's really a very simple thing, but it's just part of the first things you need to know before you go deep in your CSS and HTML. So I hope you like this, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye for now.